Hello, and welcome to Half the Year in Hell, the podcast for the ones who were made to carry what wasn't theirs. This is a place where we speak from the underworld and help you make your way on out.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for therapy. We are licensed therapists, but we are not your therapist. This podcast is for education and liberation, not diagnosis or treatment. Some episodes contain strong language and content related to trauma. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome to an episode of Half the Year in Hell. I'm Aunge.
I'm Sasha, and this is Percy. He's right here with us. He's sitting on my lap today because he has some behavioral issues where he jumps off the porch and goes at other dogs. And that's not really safe when you live with two Black people in the suburbs.
And also, we give him space to be himself because he was a therapy dog for a long time. And we have had some stuff happen with our mental health being therapists. So it makes sense that maybe Percy has to.
Yeah, and he's been through my cancer with me.
Yeah.
Through so much. He gets really anxious. He's really protective of us. That's a good refrain for that.
He's protective. He's protective. And also a hood rat. So today we thought that we would talk about false scapegoats and what that looks like and what that means. And I thought that I would try again with the case Vignette. They're replacing lead pipes on our street. So there's a lot of construction in the background. If y'all hear that, my bad. But it just kind of is what it is. But we thought that we would open with a case Vignette. So we have a 35-year-old Black AFAB. We will call her, what should we call her? Maya? Did we use Maya already?
No.
Let's use Maya. So Maya is a therapist. She has known that she's wanted to be a therapist her entire life.
This is also not a real person, y'all. This is just a mashup of different things.
A mashup of different characteristics. So there's no one named Maya that's going to sue us.
Or anyone who has this exact story. Anyway.
And if you do, I'm a psychic and I can read your mind and that's all that's happening. I'm sorry. So Maya, 35, therapist, known that she wanted to be a therapist her entire life, has been really excited to learn about the field and gets really into her coursework because her coursework gives her a chance to escape from some of her chaos. So Maya is the scapegoat in her system. She is very kind and very gentle. She has a hard time setting boundaries and telling people no, which I don't know if y'all know this, but being a therapist, the joke is that we're career codependents. And that's...
Is it a joke? Or is it the truth?
Sometimes humor imitates real life. So she's very kind, very sweet, doesn't tell people no. And she has a younger sibling that she doesn't understand that she basically raised her younger sibling, but her younger sibling kind of followed her around everywhere. She did everything for this younger sibling. She took him to his baseball game. She bought him his tuxedo for prom. She's done all this different stuff. And Maya and her sibling kind of drift apart for a little bit, but she's always there and she's always supportive and she's always present. And she notices that when her sibling, let's call him Roger.
Okay.
It's an old man name, but I think it works. So Roger is 22. Roger has lived at his mama's house this entire time, and Maya knows it, but doesn't really acknowledge it because it's not really that important. But Roger is the mama's favorite. Maya accomplished all these different things. She was in track, she was in sports, she did all these different things, and it doesn't really matter what she tries to achieve. Roger is just front and center.
Why is she the scapegoat? What made her be scapegoated? Do you know?
Oh, let's say that Maya looks like her mama, but more attractive. And she's charming. People really like her. People like to be around her. People spend time with her. She's the life of the party, and she doesn't know that she has any of these positive qualities, right? So
can she also be smarter than her mom?
Usually.
Usually. Okay.
So
I'm getting into it.
Maya overhears Roger on the phone, and she's not really a busybody, so she just keeps it pushing. And then he says a very specific story, and she actually can't divert her attention. It brings her back into what's happening in the phone call. So Roger is telling a story about when he was 10 years old. His dad ran over his foot, and he's had a disability ever since, and that's why he can't work, and that's why he can't leave his mama's house. And Maya's sitting there being like, actually, that man ran over my foot, and no one took me to the hospital. I sat on the couch and cried for about, I don't know, 10 days. And then I was like, well, I got to get back up and keep walking because I can't just have a broken foot, I guess. So here we are. And they made me get a job the next summer. So Maya is really confused about how Roger has co-opted the story, but Maya just kind of like lets it go. And what ends up happening because of that story about the foot that everyone has started to believe, everyone starts to align with Roger. So anytime Maya is like, hey, can you take out mama's trash? And there's other people in the room will be like, how dare you do that? Like, his foot is hurt. He's having such a hard time, and you're over here asking him to do something. Maya also has a cane, by the way, from the foot injury. So let's throw that in there as a detail.
That's what I was about to say. Could her toe probably is permanently damaged? Her left
She's got pinky a differential. Toe. Yeah. And the way that she walks. Yeah. And Maya is just kind of like, oh, so this little person has been over here just like stealing my story. And like using my story to not only turn people against me, but also for them to avoid accountability. Ooh, that's a big mosquito. For anyone to avoid accountability.
Thank you.
Yeah. For him to avoid accountability as to why he's not working, why he's laid up at his mama's house. So let's say Maya comes into your office. What's the first thing that you notice about how she's talking or what's happening in the interaction?
Well,
it was a long story. I've been talking for 6 minutes.
It was actually pretty fascinating.
Okay. My brain is a weird place to be in.
She probably is, I think, like we said, and I think we said this before, like the way people will come in kind of quiet. And she is thinking that she is stressed because she can't really get ahead. And she's working and working. She's working a lot. Probably 2 jobs. But she's like, I don't know what's wrong with me that I don't have any energy. And then you start asking her, why don't you have any energy? Well, it's because I've been working 2 jobs, and I think I just like, something's like probably wrong with me. I need to probably work more, or I need to work differently, or I would need to work harder. I think that's how she's probably going to come in. Probably first talking about how tired she is. I think a lot of times when it's this kind of scapegoating, and when there's a false scapegoat involved, I think a lot of times when somebody's trauma has been co-opted, they don't believe that they have trauma. So they're just like working and working and working so much, and they don't understand that everybody's picking at them.
Yeah, everyone's picking at them. Everyone is calling them lazy or unmotivated or like whatever negative thing that they have to say. And also, not only are they working 2 jobs, but they're also taking care of their entire family system. And they're taking care of the chaos at work, and they're taking care of their chaos in their friend group, because somehow they've amassed a group of friends that are extremely chaotic, and they don't actually see it because they're so used to being in the chaos that it just feels normal. And I think one of the questions that I would have for Maya, let's like say that she comes in and she doesn't ask for sliding scale, but she's also working 80 hours. And you're like, how are you working that? Like, what's happening here with your finances where you have to work that much? And she starts to disclose, oh, I send money to my family because they can't do things because of X, Y, and Z. So I'm the one that's responsible for keeping the family system financially afloat. So I have 27 PhDs, 2 master's degrees. That's not a balanced number. It doesn't matter. Just go with it.
Okay.
But also Black AFAB. So yeah. And
also I'm a CPA.
And also I'm a CPA during tax season. So I actually have 3 jobs depending on the season. So I'm gonna ask about what's happening with her financially, or I'm gonna like see what's
That
happening
was
with her
kind of dark.
financially.
Now I'm thinking about all the people that work at H&R Block, and I'm like, oh, it's true. I don't know if it's really true, y'all. Let me say that for the legal part of it. I don't know if it's really true. I'm just thinking about the people that do the taxes, and they look like they're so exhausted, especially some of the marginalized people. When you go in there and you know that they have a whole nother job, and they're coming in there doing that. Mm-hmm.
You know that look and Get Out where the Keith looks at the camera and he's like, that's what they look like.
That is what they look like.
Allegedly.
But we don't know. We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. I don't even know if anybody can sue around that.
I don't think so.
We're
about to find out.
I'm going to ask a little bit more about the financial situation because it's giving me an idea of like how this person interacts with boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go ahead and put kind of like a little picture together. I'm going to like edit it and adjust it as I go or throw it away completely and start over. Through the process, I'm already making the assumption that there might be some codependency present.
Mm-hmm.
There is definitely some impaired boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know more about her family system and what's happening with her family system, where she's the only one, again, with a broken foot that's working. I'm also going to ask a little bit about the little brother, but I'm probably going to ease off of it just a little bit to not.
I feel like she's
hard.
Also saying that she there's something wrong with her because she has a negative attitude and she can't persevere past her disability. This happens. This does actually happen. People will be like, I'm physically exhausted, I'm sick, or I have a disability, or whatever, and they'll be like, I'm just not sure why I can't keep going past this.
We can't relate to that at all. That's never happened to either of us. So I'm going to assess those things and I'm going to kind of put together like a picture of like what might be in the family system. And I'm making the assumption because she's paying all the bills that the family system is probably enmeshed, where people don't know where they begin and where they end. And I'm making the assumption that there might be some kind of disconnect with Maya and her parents. I'm not quite sure all the way yet what that looks like. And I'm not even sure if this assumption is true, but like that's just kind of like my initial gut.
I'm also thinking about like, why does this happen? Am I jumping?
No. You know what I think might be helpful for the people that haven't maybe caught on yet? The false scapegoat is not an actual scapegoat, as evidenced by the name false scapegoat. I don't know why I did that. The false scapegoat is someone that's taking on the identity of the scapegoat. So the story about her broken foot and like her brother using that story to like get out of accountability or do whatever with that experience. Sometimes it happens because the family system is so enmeshed and they're having a hard time differentiating between each other and like whose story is who.
Sure. I think also like when people have been scapegoated, I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but it's actually it's clicking for me now.
What's not clicking, Steven?
I think the part is like when you're talking about trauma and when you're talking about somebody being a scapegoat. And part of being a scapegoat, I do think you've been trying to talk about this a few times actually, and I think I downplay this a lot, which is probably not very helpful for you in your process. But a huge part of being the scapegoat is often the identity theft and the trauma theft. And I think it's happening for so many reasons actually that we're going to get into. But I think like when you're experiencing being a scapegoat in a system, people will regularly take your ideas. And because everyone feels entitled to because they don't have to see you, right? So what happens is when you're in a relationship with a narcissist or a narcissistic system, they will literally sit here and do stuff and they will be like, it's their idea the whole time, even though you said it. And you start to get to the point where you start thinking, oh, is this really me? Or maybe they did say this, and then everyone else is giving them credit for everything. So it's not just that people are giving them, it doesn't immediately start, I think, with people giving the person credit for your trauma, for your victim narrative. It's that you start giving away your identity, and you start losing that sense of self because they're copying you. And I think almost every time that I've experienced someone who's a false scapegoat, it's the feeling that I get is, and of course, like, I'm Enneagram 4. So I hate when people copy me. Like, I don't mind when people do things that I'm doing and they're doing it and giving me credit for it, or being like, hey, or I got this, I like this because you like it. But I get really upset when people actually copy what I'm doing and take my idea. And I've had it happen to me so many times. It's really angering. And it's happened to me interpersonally, but it's also happened to me in systems where I speak up and I share ideas in a meeting, and then maybe no one acknowledges what I said, and then the next thing you know, somebody else is actually carrying out that project and acting like they have no idea where they got it from. That kind of thing.
I've had my favorite is when I had an idea at work and I was just like, I had the idea, but functionally it's not going to work. Someone used that and took it to my boss, and then it failed. I was just like, yes,
Yeah,
the
that's
karma.
great.
But I also like the fourness part of it, right? I think I'm a 5, but I think I score 4 often on the Enneagram. I can't ever tell actually, and I know
Same.
it's projected.
We have this weird thing where we're not sure whether I'm a 4, 5, and Ange is a 5-4, or if neither. Like, we don't know. So the Enneagram, we can also talk about that as a tool. It's ENNEAGRAM. If anybody wants to do any research, but when we start getting to the place in the podcast where we're talking about healing tools, and getting your identity back. The Enneagram, that's kind of a teaser. When we're saying all this thing that happens when you're scapegoated is that you lose your identity. I think the Enneagram is one of the first early tools actually that I used to start getting my identity back.
Yeah, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, astrology, like most of the personality tests. There's a bunch of them actually, but yeah, like that was just like I really leaned into, like, for example, Enneagram 5 and like a Myers-Briggs INFP. Like when I found that, I was just kind of like, okay,
this is
I can kind of like skirt around it. Like it doesn't feel completely right, but also like there's something here that I can latch on to. Eventually, it did feel a little bit more aligned when I learned more about myself, but other conversation. Yeah, when I was younger, one of the things that would actually get me angry, because I disown my anger so much, was someone taking my joke and using it in a group of people and everybody laughing. It's like that Key and Peele sketch where he says something about hypotenuse to his friend, and then the friend steals it and makes the joke, and he's like, "Wait, guys, that's my joke," and everyone's like, "Shut up, Brad," or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. And
That's a good example.
Thank you. Thank you. If you haven't seen that sketch, it's actually it's good.
That's a really accurate example of false scapegoating.
It's the mosquitoes for me.
Yeah, I think it starts with that place of like, you start to lose ownership over even your intellectual property, your creativity, your ideas. Everything that you have you're turned into an object and you don't even realize it. And so you actually start to not realize like what is yours. And so you start giving people credit for your positive qualities.
You start giving away your positive qualities. I think the other thing that ends up happening is I've often wondered whenever I've had someone show up as a false scapegoat, like how many people thought I was a bad person because this person has made me a false scapegoat, or has made themselves a false scapegoat rather. And like how much of them is using my personality to gain sympathy from people, or to gain people in general, like whatever it is. If you're charismatic, if you're attractive, if you're
or they're like, oh well, so and so got trauma. I mean, got somebody to feel sorry for them one time because of this trauma. I own everything, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the trauma too. That's a big thing. It's like, I already own everything of yours. It's already mine. You don't actually have anything because you're just here to be an object. So I'm just going to take your trauma because I want people to actually feel sorry for me as well. And then therefore, how dare you ask me to do anything?
You went right into acting mode. It was great. You just like switch your face. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I was actually going to ask you, but I think you just answered it. Like how much of it comes from the enmeshment and how much of it is a choice? And I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But I think also there's something that happens with enmeshment with narcissistic people and systems where they don't always differentiate between you and them.
I think that's true, but I think this is what I was just thinking about right now is there's two ways it happens. Sometimes the main narcissist is the one that takes your trauma. But a lot of times the main narcissist is not the one that takes your trauma. They give it. Like in Maya's situation, they actually give your trauma to somebody else. They give your status to somebody else because you can't have anything. So they project everything that's positive about you onto somebody that they feel is more acceptable for them to project it onto. And I think it happens both of those ways.
You know, I'm actually wondering out loud here, but I almost wonder if I almost wonder if what happens is they're like, well, this is a child that can compete with me, and this child cannot compete with me. So I'm going to go ahead and give them some self esteem so they feel entitled to take from the scapegoat or bully the scapegoat. And also, like, no one's worried about them really because I still have the spotlight. And this other kid is just going to become whatever.
Or sometimes I think they're like, oh, well, this kid can give me narcissistic mirroring.
I see.
Or will give me narcissistic mirroring. And so I'm going to go ahead and make this one right. Like I'm thinking about right now, specifically when you're talking about a family where there's scapegoat and golden children, like Maya's family, I feel like the scapegoat, all their positive qualities frequently get put on the golden child. So and so is so smart. So and so does this. And the reason why I pause there with my brain is I'm thinking about how many times people have told me that they thought that they were the golden child.
I actually was like, am I the golden child? No.
Yeah. And they think that they're the golden child because they should be the golden child. They're the one that's doing everything. They have 5 PhDs and they're a CPA during tax season, but they're actually not the golden child. It's somebody else who actually hasn't earned anything. But this is why enmeshment right now here, come on, Bowenian theory.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's this is why enmeshment is so dangerous because the enmeshment in families and it leads to rigid roles. And so what happens is everyone in the family, I think, gets trained to not see someone past their roles. So like when I'm thinking now, actually, I think Zamir was like, what you should do about it. So you don't make yourself into, when they ask me about this topic of false scapegoats, like how do you make sure and check yourself to make sure you're not being a false scapegoat?
Ooh. Well, I think that like there's the Virgo answer, and then there's probably an answer that's a little bit more therapeutic, but it's still Virgo-y.
Do it. Do the Virgo answer. I want the Virgo answer.
Because
you're not a therapist, right? They're therapists right now.
I'm not your therapist. That's correct. And if I am, boundaries. Sorry, ask me the question again. ADHD got me.
It is like, how do you know you're not being a false scapegoat?
How do you know you're not being a false scapegoat? Basically, I think that it requires you to be in reality. And it requires you to go back and actually see if those are your experiences or not. And if they are your experiences and they've happened to you.
I'm thinking too about my favorite professor when I was at Trevecca. Shout out to Dr. Harvey. He would always talk about how the most healthy family systems were the ones that were flexible. That it actually, like, people would be like, well, should you do this? And should you have the mom staying at home and all these different things? And I just go back to this over and over again. That the family system has to be flexible. And I think that's part of being in reality is like, I think those two concepts are together for me, because if you are in a rigid system where so-and-so is this and so-and-so is this and so-and-so is this and so-and-so is this, and their reality doesn't work like that. You can't always be the golden child. You're going to make mistakes sometimes. You can't always be the one who's the family clown. Sometimes you're going to be depressed. You can't always be the strong person physically, because eventually physical health symptoms are going to hit you. You can't always be the one that's emotionally caretaking and kind, because maybe you are actually a human being and you want to be grumpy sometimes and have a bad mood. So when you get in this system and people in a family, right, and everybody is supposed to be in this role and everything has to be stuck on whatever the role is that's been described, and then life starts lifing and it starts coming in with its reality, what's happening is the system has to protect its rigidity. It has to protect the role. The system is trying to keep that homeostasis. So it's trying to protect the role. So when you see, if I see so-and-so coming over here and acting like this, then if I'm so worried about protecting the system and protecting the roles in the system, instead of keeping the system flexible and healthy, then, and I'm thinking this is the way that it's supposed to be, then I'm not going to recognize when something is amiss. And when somebody is giving me maybe credit for something I didn't do, or blaming me for something I didn't do, because all I can see is the rigid system and this is what it's supposed to do. You know what I mean? So you're going to just keep on trying to make that, whatever that quality is, fit, right? Because if you've decided that so-and-so always has to be the bad person and so-and-so always has to be the overachiever, then you're going to give away all the qualities onto the overachiever. So you're right. Like, staying in reality is important, because if you're in reality, then when outside things are happening and things are changing and life is lifing, you have this ability to react and be able to actually communicate with people from what's actually happening in the moment instead of what you think should be happening in the moment. Woo, that was a lot. That just actually made me tired to take that in, and that really came in my mind on the spot.
I'm gonna tell you something. You were talking, and I'm sure it's gonna show up on here. I started dissociating, so I was like, "Oh, this is too much truth." And then you finished talking. I was like, "Okay, yeah, yeah." It's really interesting. You know, I've had this work for myself and also for my clients. Like, what does it look like for you to sit in whatever shame response you're having whenever you're calling out someone else's behavior to your therapist or to yourself? Because when you're in that scapegoat role and someone is a false scapegoat and you've been told to abandon yourself and not align with yourself and not have anything that has to do with your own self concept, it's all pushed onto this other person. There's a lot of shame that comes up of acknowledging, like, oh, maybe so and so is sometimes kind of an a hole. Or maybe so and so was kind of like bratty as a kid and like no one really talked about it. Maybe I'm actually really good at math, but for whatever reason, he joined the mathletes. He's not good at math, but I just thought that math was not his thing. And it's just like, what does it look like for you to sit with the shame and see what happens with the shame instead of trying to push the shame away and going back into the system's lies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it started making me think about like the thing. I don't know if I've said this before. Again, these things are like so important to me that I feel like I say them over and over again. Is the other thing that I think can help you be a false scapegoat is being stuck in victim narrative.
Oh my goodness.
Right? Because like you can be an actual victim, you can be a victim, and it's fine. Like you need to be validated. But the thing is that when you're in recovery and when you're going to therapy, this is where people get really upset, is you start trying to get them to not attach to the role. You want them to be like, yes, you were victimized, but don't think of yourself as a victim. So you're trying to get them to detach from the role, and they don't want to detach from the role. And that is also how you start to become, a false scapegoat, because you start getting addicted to the validation you're getting from your victim narrative. You become sometimes afraid. I think people get afraid to change and they don't want to do anything. So they'll stick to this victim narrative with a marginalized identity.
We're going to
Yep.
move on from that. Yeah, it ends up happening a lot, and it's actually really frustrating because I think in the same way that false scapegoats can get locked in that victim narrative where they're like, well, something happened to me, so I can't do something different ever. This is just what's locked in. Scapegoats can actually also land there if they don't want to acknowledge that their family system might not be healthy.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And what ends up happening is you'll start to let them know, like, hey, this is what's happening. I'm trying to wake you up. And they just get really angry. They get really angry because that forces them to look at the people in their system and actually even consider if the system is worth staying in. And when you're a scapegoat and you already have this abandonment trauma, right? Usually from neglect or people just like leaving you out, whatever it is, and you're thinking about abandonment, it's just like, well, the worst thing that I can do is push people away from me. The problem is you've already been abandoned by your system. So it doesn't, it doesn't really, it's not that it's not harmful, it's not that it's not hurtful, but also you're already experiencing it. What's the difference?
Yeah, you're correct. Thinking about how, I don't know, like I'm thinking about giving a specific example of this, how we do this culturally.
Yeah.
It's a way that we've actually culturally approved this. So I think a lot of people will be able to relate to this, actually. It's something that's happened to me, but I'm not just talking about what's happened to me. I think that this has happened in a lot of families. So when you're talking about nuclear families with a cishet mom and a cishet dad, what happens in a lot of families is that women, people talk to me about this a lot, that women, because they're supposed to be the supporter in the family when they're going by the traditional family values, the women are supposed to go to the back seat and stay quiet and be in the background and be supporting the husband. And I had heard this before, but I don't think that I quite understood it because I didn't have that kind of a childhood. I had parents, I grew up lots of stuff, but a queer family. So I didn't understand how people were so attached to these roles. And I didn't understand the rules that I'm supposed to follow.
Yeah.
And so I have had this come in. I thought that this was something that just happened to me. Should have known not, because so many people kept telling me, hey, the problem that you're having is you're too big in your personality. You're doing too much. You don't know how to put your husband in front of you. You should build him up. And it's so bad that people will come in and they will do this with parenting. Did you dissociate? Did I say too much?
No, I just looked at the camera like
It's so true because it's come into my office so many times that people will do it with parenting. People will get a divorce when their kids are grown. No one knows that, and of course this can happen the other way around, but we're talking about how we've societally sanctioned it. Where the way we've societally sanctioned it is that the mom is actually supposed to make it like the dad is a good dad. And it'll be actually the mom's actually going back behind the scenes and doing everything and making it look like he's such a great dad to the kids. And the mom is the one, and like you see this in the past, like there's kind of this trope about like a professor's wife where she was writing all of his papers for him. And then he gets the PhD and he didn't do the dissertation. She did it. And then he leaves her for a younger student. You know what I mean? Like
acrimony.
Right. Like this is a trope.
How did she get on the boat?
It's like it would be all her ideas. And it's very socially normalized. I wish that I could say that this is happening only in like certain religious circles or certain cultural circles. I think this is really like an integral part of patriarchy. We're introducing the big girl words now. I think this is really a inherent part of patriarchy, is that you women are supposed to make men look better than they are. And if you have a family, the other way that this shows up is if you have a family and that's what stood out to me about Maya, is that if you have a family, a lot of times you're supposed to downplay the daughter in a lot of ways, and you have to put the son on a pedestal, and you're not even paying attention whether your son might be a little asshole. You know,
and letting him get away with it and being like, well, boys will be boys,
yes,
or whatever. That,
yes. Or like the other way that it seems to happen is like overlooking skills in a family, right? Is if one person, they, for whatever in their own little family culture or where they're living, think that one person is supposed to have these certain abilities because it goes with this gender. And then these other abilities go with this gender.
Or skin tone.
Or skin tone or whatever. Yeah. So I think that, or I think definitely what you were saying about the parent being jealous is like, I'm going to give the qualities to this other person because you already have everything. Let so-and-so have something.
As if you can cut off a piece of your personality and be like, here, sir, please take this. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. That, I don't know. I really encourage everybody. I know we're close to the end. I don't know if you have anything else.
I did, but I keep forgetting it. My ADHD be getting me.
That's okay. I think what's really, I want people to think about, you know, this isn't a session, but if it's a session, it's me giving homework question.
It's not a session though.
But it's not a session. Where have you noticed copying in your life? I think that a lot of people who are scapegoats who are watching this probably have people who have even been overtly copying. And I want you to know that you can trust yourself, that you actually know the difference. You'll see as this keeps going that Aunge and I dress alike a lot. We do this often, and we also like buy the same shoes because if one of us has something and the other one likes it, we go and get it. That is not the same thing as one of us being stealing somebody else's personality because we're doing it overtly. If you do something and you have a feeling that the person is doing something and pretending that it's their idea, this is it. It's the copying. It's not things being the same. It's not the sharing. It's if you notice that someone is copying you, especially if it isn't even role appropriate, right? Like if a child does this to their parent or a younger sibling does this to their parent, to their older sibling, okay, you know, I sure wanted to be like my big cousins. There's many things that they did, playing Pac-Man, that I wanted to do because they were doing it, right? I wanted to wear the same stuff they did. That's normal. It's different when you start acting like it's yours or when it goes beyond is the point where the person should have been developing itself.
Yeah.
Talk and think about copycats. See y'all next time.
I did actually have one more thing to say if y'all are still here. You know, there's a thing that you talk about a lot in couples therapy where I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Where the person who, let's just go based off of demographics, you're making the assumption societally.
Woo! No, don't do that one. Okay, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it.
You're making the assumption societally that this person is
the person in power. The person in power. You think that they would traditionally be the person in power that's in the couple. They have all the gender role or the color role or the money or whatever it is. Yes.
So then what ends up happening is the more you learn about it and you're sitting there and you're like, okay, this is not really like panning out. Like this person is saying that he's doing X, Y, and Z. And he's like, well, if they perceive me as doing it that way, then da da da. And like you're just getting like this really earnest, like honest feeling from this person. You're like, this is incongruent. What's happening? And then you realize that, for example, let's just keep it very basic. The AFAB partner is actually the one causing all the harm, and the AMAB partner is extremely codependent, going behind her and trying.
That happens. That actually happens often. Yes, it happens so often. I think that's why it's so important for people not to think about I think you got to think about those roles because what's happening is people are getting tired of one role, and they're lacking imagination to understand that the role is the problem, and they're going and trying to be another role. And that doesn't make any sense. You don't need to change roles. It was like when I was changing to all these different teaching jobs, like at some point you have to say, oh, I don't have to have a role, right? I got to think outside of the box, right? So for me, that means that what does it look like for me to do education? Here I am. So that was just an example. That was good. That was good. All right. I'll see y'all next time.
See y'all next time. We'll try to start earlier and not the dark.
Yeah. Sorry.
Bye.